This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video. Today we have a top 16 breakdown for PPG's Otakon Digimon Regional that happened this past weekend. This was the first North American BT9 tournament. There are over 200 players, 8 rounds of Swiss, which led to a top 16 cut, which they did play out. So we do have a winner there too. Also, if you guys appreciate these breakdowns, this one did take a little bit more extra effort. So a like and a subscribe if you haven't done already would go a long way. Also, make sure to check out PPG's next in-person event. They're going to be having it in Kansas City, which is my hometown when I'm not living in Arizona. So if you guys want me to go out there, let me know. I'm like on the fence right now as it is, because I think it's a Digimon and DBS regional weekend. So let me know if you guys want to see me there. I'm on the hard fence if I want to go there. But again, thank you to PPG for running this event. And looking at this top 16, we do have 4 X-Antibody, 2 Imperialdramon, 2 Security Controls, 2 MetalGaru X, two Magna X, a D Reaper, which ended up winning the event, 1 WarGrey, 1 Grandis, and 1 ShineGreymon. Also, for a start of a format, there are 9 different archetypes in this top 16, which is really interesting. And we're just going to go through there. One real thing, and I'm going to mention this real quick because a lot of you guys or probably know about this already. So the finals match was Luca versus Benjamin. It ended up going to Luca because of there was a misconduct for Benjamin's where he double sleeved all of his alt art cards, presumably for protection. This is all secondhand information. This isn't primarily from me. You guys can put your own thoughts if you think it was malicious or not, but that is what happened. He's claiming it's not. It was just to protect his sleeves, and I tend to believe that only because I don't know, if I was to cheat, I wouldn't do something so blatantly obvious to do something like that, to do that. But that's my opinion. I hope you guys have your own opinions on it. That was a match loss for him, so it did go to Luca on there. But that's all I'm going to talk about it. We're just going to go into the deck list with first place Luca's D Reaper. To start us off, we do have Luca's first place D Reaper, and at this point, I'm just going to not try to decipher how D Reaper works anymore. I simply don't know how to predict this deck. I thought, and I think a lot of other people thought, EX2 was going to do some stuff. It got like 1 top 16 finish in North America and then nothing. So everyone's like, okay, this deck is not so good. And then just first event of BT9, it just wins the whole event out of nowhere. So congrats to Luca for doing that. I think that's quite the feat for it, especially with the deck that I think a lot of people were underrating for this format. I also will say that this is a pretty basic build in the sense that like a lot of them try to do like yellow or black focus. There is obviously yellow black, but mostly it's just the strong core of the other stuff and kind of going from there. And I kind of understand why this would be a tempting deck for the format. It is somewhat anti-OTK. It is OTK on your own regard as well. Some choice cards. So Starmon's kind of makes sense just because there are just a lot of cards that you play in this deck. If they don't have board clears, which a lot of decks are doing board clears right now, Starmon's can get some pops. We also do have the new Death Xmon, which can be really obnoxious as well. It could just pop it down early, like in the game, get some destruction on your opponent's side of the board, and then just slowly like will your opponent's life away with that. And then also the X-Antibody. So if you guys don't know why this is in the deck, you just have to, you can activate it and you can put it underneath your own Mother D Reaper. And most of these effects don't care if it's a searcher specifically underneath it. It just counts how many cards are underneath this guy. So, for example, like the Gatekeeper just says, if you have a Mother D Reaper with 6 or more devolution cards in play, all your opponent's Digimon get security attack -1. So even if this isn't a searcher, it doesn't matter. You can still add this for one more source, which means you can ramp up your turns from there. Obviously, X-Antibody, you can't have more than 1 underneath, but it's fine. It's also not like a terrible security thing too, because it does gain a memory, so it can impact your opponent like that. But in general, congrats to Luca there. I think it's a well-deserved win. And I don't think it should be, even though it was like a DQ at the end, or a match loss at the end for his opponent, I don't think that should undermine anything of his accomplishment. And it's really cool to see someone take a deck that I think a lot of people, including myself, underrated for this format and just get first place. So congratulations to Luca there. Next up, we do have the second place list. So this is Benjamin's X-Antibody. And we have a lot of these X-Antibody lists in the top four, or sorry, the top 8. And a lot of them look pretty similar. I think the kind of idea around these decks make sense right now. So Choo-Choo-Mon, I think that is something that is added specifically for this list based on my top 16 knowledge. And it makes sense. Like, I've played against a lot of matchups where just even a simple Gauziamon can just put a lot of pressure on your opponent or just prevent them from doing a lot of nice things. So I think Chumon is a good add for us, especially since we do not have the security Duromon, which we probably aren't getting until Star Deck and it comes, or the next set of Star Decks come out in, I think, October. So other than that, I'd say this is a somewhat standard list. A lot of people have been just waiting for this list, or, you know, the BT9 X-Antibody stuff to come out for them, and it's super here. Obviously, for Cool Boy, this card is just generically good in a lot of X-Antibodies, but incredibly good when literally every card in your deck does have that trait. We do have 4 Alpha Mons, 2 of the new one, and 2 of the old Secret Rare, 4 of the Arurumons, and then also 2 of the level 7 Secret Rares. Kongu, which is a strong card, though less strong when you're not dealing a hybrid format, which I don't think you're dealing with right now. 2 Black Memory Boosts, and then 4 UG as well to get that additional draw 1 and untap there. So I don't know. We saw a lot of these. I think a lot of these are the card pool for a X-Antibody is pretty determined right now, and so it's just dependent more on the ratios in the player than really anything else. So congrats to Benjamin on their second place. And then next up, we do have our top 4. So this is Jesse's Imperialdramon, and this is something. Okay, I think also something that's to mention too is that this is a BT9 tournament. This is like literally the day the day after it officially releases. So I think Imperialdramon is a really strong list, and I think a lot of people were just like, you know what, I don't want to scramble. I don't want to try to learn a new deck, get the new cards in BT9. And I think Jesse Smith is also a incredible Imperialdramon player. So being able to just say, you know what, let's just play the deck that I know, the deck that I think it does well, and get there. And that's exactly what he did. So nothing new with BT9, which for the record, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially when it's only officially released for one day and you have to play in a tournament for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a deck that you know works and that you're really comfortable with. And it paid off. Get top 4 with Imperialdramon. And I think Imperialdramon is still in a fine spot. I don't think it necessarily got any worse. I think just the decks around it got a little bit better to kind of keep pace with it. So here's Jesse's list. Congrats to Jesse there. Nothing too notable, I would say. This, I mean, I think I've seen like almost the exact list for a BT8 tournament and EX2 tournament. That's totally fine. It's super duper. So next up, we do have a security control. So we did get 2, and this is Gerald's Williams security control. And I think security control, especially in an in-person event, and also with a couple of new tools that it got in this format. And by new tools, I mean strictly Death Xmon, but this is just good enough to carry a game all by itself. We are seeing kind of like the ideas of what this deck does. Purple Yellow is really good, especially Chaos Degrade is the best removal in the game right now. And so being able to use it to get rid of your opponent's big boss monsters, especially like most of these cards in your security are just death for any kind of OTK list, including like X-Antibody or like Grandis, anything like that. They can hit into like a Chaos Degrade, they can hit into a Wyvern's Breath, they can hit into even like a Holy Flame. And they just don't think they won't win like they thought they would win their big old swing. So I think this is really good. I think Beelstar and this are kind of similar, and they're really good against kind of the big OTK decks that are running around right now. I think Security Control was probably better for this event based on the fact that it got 2 in the top 16. They also did get the new Salomon X-Antibody, which I do like these X-Antibody rookies. You can either just like use it as like a rookie to Digivolve for no real cost, or if you're able to get the lucky with like Salomon on top of it, you can get like some recovery and kind of like some knowledge with what is the like top card of your security and stuff. So really, really strong. I do like this. And especially like Bench Kidmon, if you're playing actually against Beelstar, this like just wins you the match most of the time, and that feels kind of good. And I don't know. I think Security Control is probably going to be around for a little bit in this format, especially with how OTK it is. It's just a good counter to that kind of stuff. So congrats to Gerald there with your top 16 finish, or top 8 finish, my goodness, with Security Control. Next up, we do have Eric's Magna X. And so this is kind of I really like Magna X, and this is kind of like the armor rush version of it, which I think is pretty capable. Looking a lot like kind of how like the Imperialdramon DNA one does, except for instead you just run the Magna and you can go into the X-Antibody. Fire Rocket, I think, is better right now, especially since it helps you finish some games a lot quicker. You do also have the Awakening of the Golden Knight, which can help you get into your Magna X-Antibody. And this is just a good card, being able to use this to prevent damage, to heal because it puts itself on top of security and everything else, and then just also kind of be like a blocker. Like this X-Antibody Magnamon just is really trouble if you're able to get it up quickly with your opponent not really able to do about it. So I like the card, and it does a lot. I think the only thing I would say is that when this Digimon would be removed or deleted or removed from field, that might be too strong. It put in security, but like even how it is, I think it's very, very good. So and then you just get some like rush stuff to go with it, like, and then just regular blue stuff. So Davis's, and then Megadeth, I think, is one of the best cards in the format if you can run it. It lets you just get rid of literally anything on the board, including a lot of like if Grandis is trying to swing in, or like an X-Antibody is trying to swing in, they hit a Megadeth in security, you pretty much just win the game, I feel like. So that does help matches like that. And even just playing it for 5 on something if they have to bring something up a little bit early is still not the worst thing in the world. I do like the idea of it. So I think Magna is in a good spot. I think it's probably going to do probably top for the next couple events, and builds like these are really, really strong. So congrats to Eric for their finish there. And then next up we do have a top 16 WarGrey X, and so I think when I made my tier list, I think I made WarGrey probably the best red aggro deck that we have, and it did get a top 16. So it's very, very linear, like most red aggro lists are. But if you're able to get up to your WarGreymon X-Antibody, you do have some good things to do with it, especially if you're able to swing with it with an X-Antibody underneath it. You can go into your Omni X-Antibody, and then you will probably have like 7 sources underneath here, and you can just use them to negate or just end attacks and like prevent your opponent from attacking into you, which is really nice. So I like this build with it. And so yeah, just so you know, like X-Antibody, you can use its effect, and since this is an X-Antibody, you can digivolve this on top of your WarGreymon, you get that effect. You don't get the when attacking because you miss the timing for it, essentially. But like this WarGrey X-Antibody is really strong. Even just attacking with a WarGreymon, using the effect to get security attack +1 and not being able to activate the security effects are good, though. It's only if you do swing at the security attack +1 and then go into X-Antibody with the X-Antibody option, you don't get to use the effect to not check security skills, so you do have to be careful of that one. We do also have like the new promo and like the metal grade. This can even just be trouble too, like being able to de-digivolve your opponent's cards, even if it doesn't pop anything, can get slowly advantage on your side of the board. So split between the Nokia and the Cool Boy, I think this makes sense. I've been like, Nokia is kind of like a Cool Boy in this archetype already, which is nice and kind of helps you there. So I like WarGrey. I like this build. I think I'm not surprised it did well. And congrats to Delon for their top 16 there. Next up, we have Delon's MetalGaru X. We did have 2 MetalGaru X, and both of them were pretty similar. They kind of had the same lines. Specifically, they just kind of go up there, like the what do they use the EX1 MetalGaru. So this says when digivolving, gain 1 memory for every 4 cards in your hand. When attacking, if you have 8 or more cards in your hand, a tamer and play, return one of your opponent's Digimon that has an on-deletion effect to the deck, then cash all devolution cards of that Digimon. So that's kind of nice being able to get rid of that. I have thought of like, I know like some cards give on deletion to some cards, and then you could like use that, like give your opponent's cards an on deletion, and then you can digivolve into this. I don't think it works like that, unfortunately. Like if you can figure that out, and then you can just like pop literally anything, I think that has some power. But like just being able to go into the MetalGaru X, this is such a good boss monster in an archetype that really hasn't had like a fantastic boss monster ever. This is a Garurumon that's worth going in. So when digivolving, unsuspend this Digimon, it gains blocker, and then as well as until the end of your opponent's turn. And your turn once per turn, this Digimon becomes unsuspended, which can include just untapping it for turn. If MetalGarumon are X-Antibodies in this devolution cards, return all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level to their owner's hand. So really disgusting. Like this just pops boards, and you can do it pretty often. So the interesting choice here is that there's also the Howling Crusher, And I don't know if that's just like for the security effect of it, or if you, I don't know, like this can prevent like any X-Antibody stuff, except for you can't get rid of actually X-Antibody with this effect. So an interesting choice there. But yeah, I like this. I like Gabumon's my favorite of the Gabu Abu matchup. So I do like this build as well. And yeah, I think MetalGarumon's probably going to get some pops in the future too. I think it's going to be a very, very strong list. Next up, we do have Talyn's Grandis, and what I've been told about this too is that top 16, he arrived late, so he got a game 1 loss, and then he just lost in top 16. So I don't know if that makes a difference if he would have been able to advance further, but that does at least mean it was a little bit harder for him to get to top 16 to top 8. But this is obviously one of the decks that have been kind of hyped up for this format. The fact that Grandis works so good with Grand Kuwakamon, the fact that you can get you can just get through all your security at once, which is really nice. This also does tech in the delicate plan with the hero as your red tamer for that. Just being able to use the effect of, if you have 2 or less memory, set your memory to 3, but also if you attack with something that's 5 or higher, which is just pretty much any of these dudes, it gets the plus 2k boost. So this becomes 16k plus 2 more. So this becomes an 18k all by itself, and it can get even higher depending on what you do. So you can make it a 20k if you use your Yokomon trashing effect there. So I think this is this is just very straightforward, a large build that lets you do stuff. You also can just get jamming. We've seen this before, Almon. But yeah, I think green finally has like a solid mono deck, which is just doing what green has already been doing best, which is just doing a big old OTK with Grand Kuwagamon. But I guess that's not an issue. We'll see if it continues to do well. I think this is super glass cannon though, unless you have the delicate plan. And if you run that, you do run into some consistency issues in other matchups. But I think I don't know. It's strong when it works. It's it's very, very, very strong. And last up, we do have our ShineGreymon list as well. So this is Alex Michaels, and this is I think in a lot of ways a build that people wanted to see, but I think we're a little bit hesitant to see if it would get any tops here, especially with the pseudo nerf of the Jet Sylphimon down to 1. I don't think this is a deck that'd be running a lot of Jet Sylphies anyways, but I really do like red yellow, and I think like the red yellow generic yellow hybrid list doesn't exist anymore with Jet Sylphie, but I think this list with the Rise and the Tamers and the Shines definitely deserves a spot. So some key cards to talk about too. So we do have the Zackery, and I think this is definitely worth being a boss monster in this archetype. Opponent's turn, when opponent's Digimon moves from breeding area to battle area, it's security attack -3 for the turn, which just means if they're playing a deck that has like a lot of if you're playing against Grandis or you're playing against X-Antibody, they like to just keep raising, then push it up and do their OTK because they don't want to be interacted with. So if you have the Zackery out, that means that they have to raise it either a turn early to do their stuff, or they have to do something that makes it interactable, and which means that a deck like this can easily get rid of cards with the help of ShineGreymon and kind of everything else that this archetype has. So there's also the new WarGrey X antibody. So you can play 1 red or yellow tamer from your hand, and then if WarGrey or X antibodies in this evolution cards, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -2k for each red or yellow tamer you have in play for the turn. So this is really easy to just kind of proc off. Like even if you just have like the red WarGrey, you use its effect, play another tamer. Let's say you have like 2 or 3 out, you can swing in with this as well. So it gets -6k just from playing, and then you get another -2 from the WarGrey. There's a lot of ways to get like some pops on the board, which kind of feels nice. So the only thing is that I wish that this was not wish, but I think this could be a Cody instead. Is this pretty much procs as much as Cody, but Cody also lets you get like a -2 if you swing with like a WarGrey, or I think even like the Death Xmon too, or even like the Dino Humon. So I think that's kind of worth the idea. I do like the red yellow stuff though, and we also do have like the new Sunrise Buster. So play 1 red or yellow tamer from your hand, and then one of your opponent's Digimon gets -3k for each yellow and or red tamer you have in play. So it's very easy for this to be able just to pop something as well as play the tamer. So nice. Yeah, so hopefully we see more of this list too. I think this is a cool list for the meta, especially since Jet Sylphie doesn't exist as much as it used to. Kaustinen, I think at 4 makes sense too, because it can just win you the game if you have enough of them and close it out. And yeah, I like ShineGrey, so I'm happy. So That's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're still watching this video at this point and you haven't liked and subscribed, you might as well. I've just rambled about Digimon for a very, very long time. You decided to watch the entire thing. So that's going to be it for me. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Check out PPG's event in September, and I'll catch you all next time.